There is a well-known saying that Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. Usually people assume that that means that the birthday of Mashiach will be on some year when this will be the 9th of Av. However, the original source for this idea actually is in Yerushalmi, in Jerusalem Talmud, and in other Midrashim. It seems to imply that not just that Mashiach is born on some Tisha B'Av, but that Mashiach is born on the Tisha B'Av when the temple was destroyed. Meaning the worst day of our destruction gave a possibility to arise back. The whole idea is that the worst darkness is when there is nothing else to lose. That's when the possibility of redemption comes. Again, it doesn't have to be taken literally, but the idea itself is a very fundamental and well-known idea. By the way, not only in our religion, but the whole idea that the worst times is a possibility for better. It gives the best hopes, kind of. Like Giuliani said after September 11th, when our city, I live in New York City, was attacked by fundamentalist terrorists. Giuliani said that our city will never be the same, it will be better. It's the same idea. So it's not just a Jewish idea, obviously, and it exists in all kinds of thoughts and religions. And in many ways, in today's situation, we could see how the worst day, certainly in the last 50 years and possibly longer, for the Jewish people and the state of Israel in particular, was the 7th of October, almost 2 years ago. More than 1,200 people, for tiny Israel, it's a huge number of people, were massacred in the worst possible ways, raped, beheaded, burned alive, terrible things. And nothing was done. The army couldn't do anything. It only came very late. There were a lot of cases of heroism, but these were individuals, police force, other people who stepped in. But the main army, that people had so much reliance on, somehow took a day off, kind of. Came in very late. Unbelievable thing happened. Nobody understands still how they were so sure of that concept that Hamas is deterred, that they want good things for their people, that they would never do such a monstrous thing. Right? How could they, when they were very good at spying on Hezbollah, on Iran, on other enemies, but on the relatively tiny group Hamas, right? Compared to Hezbollah, Hamas is relatively small. Hezbollah was much more powerful. If Hezbollah would have done such a thing, they would have killed at least tens of, maybe hundreds of thousands of Jews and captured and kidnapped much more than Hamas was able to do. But of course, even Hamas, even with a few thousand people who trained, who plotted, and the factor of surprise and everything, they were able to do horrible, monstrous things. And the Jews weren't able to do anything. Could do very little with this. So it was obviously the biggest failure, at least in the last 50 years, maybe more. Some say it was the worst day Israel experienced since the Holocaust. Others say it's comparable to, let's say Intifada that was started by Arafat, killed probably as many people, but wasn't all in one day. Whatever the case may be, it was certainly a horrible failure. But it's specifically that gave rise for Israel to understand how dangerous that situation is. Until then, they were just kind and nice and tried to think in the terms that they're thinking about themselves, and applying the same logic to their enemies. It's only this horrible tragedy that brought Israel to start dealing with all these things. Imagine if Israel would strike Iran's nuclear project during the time when everything was at peace. Nobody in the international community would condone it, and Israel would never have the courage to do it. It's only when the Jews understood that there could be another Holocaust coming, they could simply all be destroyed. It's not theoretical, it's real, it's not just rhetoric. That's when they started actually doing things. Then that's when the actions were done. And so the biggest failures sometimes lead to great changes for the better. So this is the message, of course, that we have to learn from Tisha B'Av, that it's the worst day of our year, but we also don't say Tachanun on it, we don't say certain supplications on it, because we say in the future it will be a holiday. This is the day that is the worst day of our year, but it also will become a kind of trampoline for better. The greatest things will eventually happen. And that's what the prophet said, Zechariah, when he was asked, that was during the Second Temple time, should we continue fasting on those 4 fast days that commemorate the destruction of the first temple? And Zechariah answered them that no, now that the temple is rebuilt, we're going to celebrate. These are going to be days of celebration, not days of fast. Then, of course, the Second Temple was also destroyed, and again, we have these 4 fast days, the worst of which is the most strict of which is Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av. But one day it's going to become a holiday. May it happen soon in our lifetimes.